A royal empire does not always collapse with a war, a scandal, or a public announcement. Sometimes it falls in silence, sometimes it changes hands in the space of a single breath, and sometimes the person who loses everything does not even realise the door has already closed behind them. For years, Camilla had moved through one of Britain's most valuable private estates as though it had become an extension of her own world. Quietly, carefully, almost invisibly, she had surrounded herself with people she trusted. Her family appeared in places that mattered. Familiar names settled into comfortable positions. The estate, vast and old and wrapped in royal tradition, began to feel less like an institution and more like a private kingdom built in the shadows of power. But then, in one moment, everything changed. Prince William became the owner of the Duchy of Cornwall, one of the richest and most historically important private estates in Britain. And when that happened, the ground beneath Camilla's carefully arranged world began to shift. The property that had once supported King Charles's life as Prince of Wales, the estate that had funded decades of royal privilege, influence and security, no longer belonged to him. It belonged to William. And William, according to the story now unfolding behind palace walls, did not hesitate. The moment the estate transferred into his hands, he began clearing house. The people who had once seemed protected, the ones who had settled into the structure around Camilla, were suddenly no longer untouchable. One by one, they were removed. Every connection, every quiet arrangement, every position that had made Camilla's influence feel permanent began to disappear. And what William is reportedly preparing to do next has shaken Camilla more deeply than anyone expected. Sources have claimed that she is not merely upset, she is frightened. Frightened about her standing, frightened about her future, frightened, most of all, about where she may eventually live if the balance of power continues to move away from her, because what she once believed was secure may not have been hers at all. It may have only been borrowed, temporarily sheltered under Charles's protection. And that is why this story matters. It is not simply about land. It is not simply about money. It is not even just about royal property. It is about inheritance, loyalty, resentment, and the cold reality of what happens when a new generation takes control of an old empire. It is about a son who remembers what the world watched his mother endure. It is about a woman who spent decades finding her place inside the royal machine. And it is about the moment when all of that history, all of that pain, and all of that silent tension finally collided with the law of succession. To understand why Camilla never saw this coming, you have to go back to the day everything changed. On September 8th, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II died at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. The world stopped. Across Britain, church bells rang, black suits emerged, flags lowered, crowds gathered outside palace gates, and television anchors spoke in careful, solemn about the end of an era. For millions of people, it felt as though a fixed point in history had vanished. Elizabeth had been queen for more than 70 years. Her image had been on coins, stamps, passports, government buildings, and family walls. She had seemed almost permanent. But monarchy does not pause for grief. The second Elizabeth took her final breath, the machinery of the crown moved forward. There was no waiting period, no emotional delay, no private space for the family to absorb what had happened before the law took effect. In that instant, Charles became king. The world understood that part. It was the headline. It was the image that filled screens everywhere. The long-serving Prince of Wales, at last, stepping into the role he had been born to inherit. But beneath that headline, another transfer happened at the same time. It was quieter, less dramatic, and barely understood by the public. Yet its consequences were enormous. William, then 40 years old, became Duke of Cornwall. He did not have to apply for it. He did not have to negotiate for it. He did not have to wait for permission. The title came to him automatically, because the moment his father became king, William became the monarch's eldest son and heir to the throne. And with that title came something far more powerful than ceremony. It came with the Duchy of Cornwall. What landed in William's hands that day was almost impossible to fully imagine. The duchy is not just a house, not just a farm, not just a family trust tucked away somewhere in the countryside. It is a sprawling private estate with a history stretching back nearly 7 centuries. It is land, property, tradition, privilege and money bound together in a structure older than most modern governments. Its value has been estimated at around $1.2 billion. It covers roughly 135,000 acres spread across 23 counties in England and Wales. Its holdings include farmland, woodland, rivers, coastline, villages, commercial buildings, residential properties, holiday cottages, investment portfolios and historic sites that have been tied to the Crown for generations. It includes almost the entire Isles of Scilly, a beautiful chain of islands off the coast of Cornwall, where the sea glows blue-green around stone cottages, old harbours, windswept lanes and beaches that look almost too peaceful to belong to a story of royal tension. It includes large parts of Dartmoor in Devon, with its open moorland, ancient stone formations, deep silence, and wild, unsettled beauty. It includes farms passed through generations of tenants, castles that carry the weight of medieval power, and properties that quietly generate income year after year. The Duchy of Cornwall was created in 1337 by King Edward III for his son, Edward the Black Prince, the first Duke of Cornwall. Its purpose was clear from the beginning: to provide independence, wealth and status to the heir to the throne. The rule was simple, and it has endured for nearly 700 years. The estate belongs to the monarch's eldest son, provided he is also heir apparent. For centuries, it passed through the hands of princes who were waiting for the crown. It survived wars, rebellions, dynastic crises, political revolutions, and the slow transformation of Britain from medieval kingdom to modern constitutional monarchy. And then, after all that history, it passed to William. By 2025, William's annual income from the estate was reported to be around $30 million. That figure alone reveals the scale of what he inherited. This was not symbolic wealth, it was real financial power. It gave him resources, independence, and control. Though he voluntarily pays tax on the income, the law does not strictly require him to do so. That detail only deepens the extraordinary nature of the estate. It exists in a space where history, privilege, and modern accountability constantly press against each other. But the most important part of this story is not the size of the duchy. It is not the acreage, the castles, the islands, or even the money. The most important part is what the duchy used to represent before it belonged to William. For decades, this was Charles's estate. While Charles was Prince of Wales, the Duchy of Cornwall generated his private income. It funded his household, his lifestyle, his charitable projects, his staff, his properties, and much of the world that surrounded him. Long before he became king, Charles had the power and comfort of the duchy behind him, and during those years another story was unfolding in the background, a story that shaped the royal family more deeply than any estate ever could. Charles was married to Diana. To the public, they were once presented as a fairy tale, the young, beautiful princess and the future king. The wedding was watched across the world. The dress, the cathedral, the carriage, the balcony kiss, every image was polished into myth. Britain had its royal romance, the monarchy had its dazzling young star, and Diana, barely out of girlhood when she entered that world, was expected to become the perfect princess, the perfect wife, the perfect mother, and eventually the perfect queen. But behind the palace doors, the fairy tale was breaking. Charles's relationship with Camilla never truly disappeared. It remained there, quietly but powerfully, even inside his marriage to Diana. And for Diana, the knowledge of that relationship became a wound that never properly healed. She famously described her marriage as crowded, saying there were 3 people in it. The meaning of those words was impossible to miss. She was not simply speaking about infidelity. She was speaking about emotional displacement, about standing beside her husband while feeling that his heart, loyalty, and desire were somewhere else. That kind of rejection does not stay on the surface. It enters a person slowly, it changes the way they see themselves. For Diana, knowing that Charles continued to choose Camilla again and again reportedly destroyed her confidence from the inside. The woman the world adored often felt unwanted in the one place where she should have felt safest. She could smile for cameras, hold bouquets, greet crowds, and light up rooms with the warmth that made people love her. But behind the image was a young woman trying to survive a marriage where she felt emotionally abandoned. And this is where the inheritance of the duchy becomes more than a financial story. Because the estate that now belongs to William was the same estate that supported Charles during the years when Diana was suffering. It was part of the structure around him, part of the world that allowed him to live with immense security while his marriage unravelled in front of the nation. To William, the duchy is not just ancient land and royal income. It is connected to memory. It is connected to childhood. It is connected to the years when his mother was visibly fading beneath the weight of betrayal, pressure, loneliness, and public humiliation. That is why Camilla's position suddenly feels so fragile. For years, she had been protected by Charles's affection, then by his status, and finally by his crown. She had survived scandal. She had endured public anger. She had moved from being the most controversial woman in Britain to becoming queen. That transformation was not accidental. It took patience, strategy, time, and the slow softening of public perception. The monarchy worked carefully to normalise her presence. Charles stood by her. The institution gradually absorbed her. But William is not Charles. William carries a different history. He grew up inside the consequences of that relationship. He watched his parents' marriage disintegrate. He witnessed his mother's pain not as a distant observer, but as a child inside the family. And when Diana died, that pain became permanent. It hardened into memory, into silence, into the kind of grief that does not need to be spoken every day in order to shape a person's choices. So when the Duchy of Cornwall passed from Charles to William, it may have looked like a routine constitutional transition. A title changed, an estate transferred, a new Prince of Wales stepped into an old role. But beneath the surface, it was something else entirely. It was the moment when one of the most powerful financial engines in the royal family moved out of Charles's reach and into the hands of Diana's son. It was the moment when Camilla's quiet influence over that world no longer had the same protection. It was the moment when arrangements that may have seemed secure suddenly depended on a man who had every reason to see the past differently. And that is the part Camilla may not have calculated. She had spent years adapting to royal life, gaining legitimacy, and building a place for herself inside the monarchy. She had survived the impossible once, but surviving public outrage is not the same as surviving a shift in ownership. Public opinion can be managed, headlines can fade, images can be softened, but legal inheritance is colder than reputation. It does not negotiate, it does not care about sentiment, it simply moves power from one person to another. On the day Queen Elizabeth died, the world watched Charles become king, but another story began at the same time. Far quieter and far more personal. William inherited an empire. Camilla lost access to a world she may have believed would remain under Charles's shadow forever. And now, as William begins to reshape what is his, the question hanging over the palace is no longer whether Camilla can survive the judgment of the public. It is whether she can survive the decisions of the man who inherited everything. According to insiders, the pain inside Diana's marriage had become so deep that even the woman the world called beautiful could no longer believe it herself. Staff would later recall moments when she quietly pulled them aside, fear and doubt written across her face, and asked, almost like a child trying not to break, "Am I beautiful?" Enough? And when they told her she was, she would shake her head and whisper, "Don't lie to the princess." That was what Charles's affair had done to her. It had not only wounded her pride, it had hollowed out the way she saw herself. Diana could stand in front of thousands of people, glowing beneath camera flashes, adored by crowds across the world, and still return to a palace room feeling invisible to the one person whose love she had needed most. There were nights, staff claimed, when muffled crying could be heard from her room at 3 in the morning. Many nights she slept apart from Charles, alone inside one of the grandest royal residences on earth, surrounded by priceless furniture, history, and silence. To the public, she was the people's princess. Behind closed doors, she was a young woman slowly being consumed by rejection, loneliness, and the knowledge that her husband's heart belonged somewhere else. And William saw more than people realised. He and Harry were still boys when their mother's suffering became part of the atmosphere around them. They watched the woman they loved most struggle under the pressure of a marriage that had already been invaded. They watched the headlines, the whispers, the distance between their parents, and the quiet devastation that no palace statement could ever hide. That is why the Duchy of Cornwall mattered so much when it finally passed into William's hands. It was not just land, it was not just income, it was not just a royal estate with ancient rights and modern wealth. It was the same estate that had funded Charles's life for decades, while Diana was left to suffer inside a marriage that broke her piece by piece. And there was another detail almost nobody discussed. The duchy had been created in 1337 for one reason: to make sure the heir to the throne had financial independence from the reigning monarch. It was designed so the future king could not be controlled, pressured, or financially trapped by the person already wearing the crown. So when William inherited it, he did not simply become richer. He became independent. Independent of Charles, independent of palace pressure, independent of the quiet networks that had grown around his father for years. And that independence had consequences. Inside that estate, earning a royal paycheck for nearly 20 years, was Annabel Elliot, Queen Camilla's younger sister. She had been brought in back in 2005 to design interiors for duchy properties across Cornwall, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. There was no major public competition for the role, no long selection process known to the world. She got the work after her sister married the man who controlled the estate. For almost 2 decades, that arrangement remained in place. Then William became Duke of Cornwall, and suddenly Annabel Elliot was no longer working for Charles. She was working under Diana's son. What happened next sent a message through Camilla's family that was impossible to ignore. But before that moment can be understood, you have to understand what William had been watching for years, because his decision did not appear from nowhere. It was not random. It was not simply a matter of accounts or staffing. It was the result of a long, silent history. Before Charles married Camilla in April 2005, William and Harry reportedly went to him privately. Harry later wrote about that conversation in his memoir, Spare. According to him, the brothers told their father that they would support him. They would accept Camilla. They would welcome her into the family. But they asked him not to marry her. To them, a wedding would reopen everything. It would pull Diana's name back through the newspapers. It would force the country to compare their mother, once again, to the woman who had been at the centre of Charles's affair. They were not trying to deny their father a relationship. They were trying to protect what little peace remained around Diana's memory. Charles listened, and then he married Camilla anyway. To calm public reaction, Buckingham Palace made a promise. When Charles eventually became king, Camilla would not be called queen. She would be known as Princess Consort. That was the understanding. That was the line drawn for the public, and perhaps for William and Harry as well. William accepted the moment in silence. He attended the wedding. He smiled when required. He shook hands, stood for photographs, and carried the meaning of it all somewhere private, where nobody could reach it. Then, in February 2022, Queen Elizabeth II released a message marking 70 years on the throne. To most people, it looked like a reflection on duty, legacy, and the future of the monarchy. But inside that message was one sentence that changed everything. The Queen said it was her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when Charles became king. At first, many people saw Queen Elizabeth's decision as acceptance, maybe even forgiveness, but others believed it was something colder. The Queen knew her health was failing. She knew Charles would soon become king, and she knew that Camilla's title could become a battle she would not be alive to control. So when she said Camilla should be known as Queen Consort, some insiders believed it was not a blessing. It was a final attempt to contain a problem before it exploded. Then came the coronation in May 2023. At first, Camilla was Queen Consort. Then, quietly, the word consort disappeared. She was no longer Queen Consort, she was simply Queen. The title she had once been told she would never have was now hers, and William said nothing. But silence did not mean acceptance. He had watched every promise change. He had watched Camilla move from mistress to wife to Harry spoke loudly. William stayed controlled, but that did not mean he had forgotten Diana. According to royal biographer Christopher Anderson, Camilla had a quiet way of influencing Charles, especially when it came to William and Harry. Behind closed doors, she could shape how Charles saw his own sons, and through the press, her team knew how to create sympathy for her and pressure for others. One of the most damaging examples, according to Harry, was the story that Meghan had made Kate cry before the 2018 royal wedding. Harry said the story was false and that the palace knew it. But Charles's team refused to correct it. William and Harry confronted their father. Charles dismissed them. But William believed he was not imagining it. He believed he was watching a system, quiet, careful, and always working in Camilla's favour. So he waited, and while he waited, Camilla's sister, Annabel Elliot, continued earning money through the Duchy of Cornwall. Annabel was not just Camilla's sister. Reports claimed that, during Charles's marriage to Diana, her country house gave Charles and Camilla a private place to meet away from public attention. Years later, Annabel was being paid through the same estate that once funded Charles and now belonged to William. To outsiders, it may have looked like a simple design contract. To William, it may have looked personal. When he finally had the power, he did not make a speech. He did not create a scandal. He simply waited for the duchy's annual financial accounts. And there, quietly, one name was gone. Annabel Elliot. After nearly 20 years, her paid role had ended. Officially, it had nothing to do with her work, but one source said William wanted to cut away the royal hangers-on and reduce the spending that had grown during Charles's years managing the estate. That phrase mattered. Royal hangers-on. It showed how William saw the old arrangement. This was not only about money, it was about power. It was about removing the network that had grown around Camilla and her family. At the same time, William began bringing in people he trusted. Camilla's family was out, William's circle was in, and the message was clear. The duchy was no longer Charles's world. It belonged to William now. Then came Christmas at Sandringham. Camilla reportedly invited her son, Tom Parker Bowles, to join the royal family's celebration. William made his position clear. If Tom attended the main Christmas lunch, he would not. Camilla invited Tom anyway. William stayed away and spent Christmas with Catherine and their children at Anmer Hall instead. Again, no public argument, no dramatic statement, just distance, and another warning that William would not pretend everything was fine. Then, during Donald Trump's state visit to Windsor Castle in September 2025, the tension became visible. Catherine was speaking warmly with Melania Trump when Camilla stepped in and made a firm gesture toward her, as if telling her to move aside. The moment lasted only seconds, but people noticed. The clip spread quickly. To many, it looked like Camilla was pulling rank over the future queen in public. For William, this was different. It was not just private tension anymore. It involved his wife, and it happened in front of the world. By then, Charles was reportedly speaking to William about Camilla's future. Still facing cancer, he understood that everything protecting Camilla depended on him being alive. His message was simple: leave Camilla alone, protect her when I am gone. But William's answer was already visible. It was in the payroll report. It was in the Christmas lunch he refused to attend. It was in the people he brought into the duchy. Step by step, Camilla's old influence was fading, but her deepest fear was not Annabel. It was not Christmas. It was not even her title. It was where she would live. For now, Camilla appears secure. She has Charles beside her. She has royal duties, royal homes, and the title of queen. But all of it depends on Charles. and Charles is ill. Sandringham House and Balmoral Castle are private royal homes. They are not government property. Queen Elizabeth inherited them from her father. When she died, they passed to Charles. When Charles dies, they will pass to William. That is what Camilla understands now. She may walk through those homes as queen, but legally, they do not belong to her. Not one room, not one garden, not one stone. One day, they will belong to William. And Balmoral carries a painful memory for him. William was only 15 when he and Harry were staying there in 1997. It was at Balmoral that Charles told them Princess Diana had died. Now Camilla walks those same grounds as Queen. But one day, William will own them. When Charles dies, William becomes king, Catherine becomes queen, and Camilla steps back. She may become Queen Dowager, the widow of a king. It is not shameful, but it is still a loss of power. Camilla is royal by marriage, not by birth. Her future will depend on decisions made after Charles is gone, and the person with the most power will be William. He watched his mother lose her royal title after the divorce. He knows how cold the system can become when protection disappears. And now that same system may one day be in his hands. Camilla once had a home of her own, Ray Mill House in Wiltshire. It was her private refuge outside royal control. But she sold it. Now, when Charles is gone, she may have no private estate that belongs only to her. No place completely outside William's authority. She built her life around Charles's protection. She trusted that his love, his title, and his crown would shield her forever. But crowns pass, property transfers, power moves on, and when it does, Camilla's future may rest in the hands of the one man who never forgot what happened to his mother.